everybody. Good morning. My name is Lillian Sistemans and I'm a third year Bachelor of Arts Linguistics student. So today it is my great pleasure to host the Prepping for Success Moodle 101 event. And I would like to give a warm welcome to all our commencing students online today. Whether you're commencing your studies on campus or tuning in virtually, we are thrilled to have you joining the UNSW community. I would like to show my respects and acknowledge the Bedigal, Gadigal, and Ngunnawal people who are the traditional custodians of the land, of which UNSW campuses stand, and of elders past, present, and present on which this event takes place. Prepping for Success is a virtual event series that aims to introduce first years to a range of university systems, support services, and tools to help ensure a smooth transition into university. As a student, I know firsthand how confusing and overwhelming starting your UNSW journey can be, and really encourage you to take advantage of all the events on offer as part of the series, as well as the Q&A sessions which are at the end of each event. Now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Anup Malakadili, Adrian Godoy, and Jackie Sue from the Educational Technology Support Team in the Pro Vice Chancellor Education and Student Experience Portfolio, who is here to provide guidance on Moodle, from setting up your profile to getting the most out of the platform.
Perfect. Thank you, Lillian, for that beautiful introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anup. I'm from the Education Technology Support Team, a senior support analyst. And today we are here to present about Moodle. Just a quick introduction. You can see there's three of us presenting today. Myself, Adrian, and Jackie, but we have others supporting the team as well. And so with that, let's go ahead and start off today's session. So as a part of today's session, we'll be covering what's Moodle and how you access it, a dashboard within Moodle, and then we will talk more about the course visibility and various contents and activities within Moodle that you might be using throughout your time here at UNSW. And lastly, we'll have some time for Q&A to answer any of your queries or questions. So with that, let's go ahead and start off with accessing Moodle. Now, before accessing, let's understand what is Moodle. Moodle is a UNSW's primary LMS, learning management system. And during your time here at UNSW, for most of the courses, you will have individual course-specific pages within Moodle where course contents are hosted, including assignment tasks, assessment tasks, grades, and other relevant resources and interacting activities, such as files and other links. Now, to access Moodle, you can either use the URL or just Google UNSW Moodle. Now, it's the first link that shows up as soon as you search for it, and that will straight up take you to the Moodle login page. And I must note, this is the brand new Moodle login page. For the students new over here, we had an older version, but this is the latest version that has been released yesterday. So this is the most important link that you can bookmark so you can quickly access Moodle, and the URL is moodle.telt.unsw.edu.au. Now, before we go ahead and log in, I just want to talk about some of the features within this page itself. Starting from the top, we have a direct connection to Office 365. So UNSW students have access to Office 365 as a part of UNSW. And then the help section, which is quite useful throughout your time here at UNSW, specifically, of course, the student help section. Starting from the top, we'll have education technology support. So this is support information for everything within Moodle. And then we have the guides and resources where you will find guides or files and resources to understand how to use certain activities or resources within Moodle. And then we have UNSW IT support. They are the first point of contact if you are having login issues within Moodle. So if you are having issues to log into Moodle itself, you can contact our UNSW IT support. And then we have some additional student life support sites like Student Home, Academic Skills, Health and Wellbeing, and direct contacts for your faculty or program unit. So yeah, that's a quick help option, which you can access right away from the top. And then as we move down, we have the login option. And then there are some alternate login options where you can find information about if you do not have a ZID, then there is an alternate login that's available that you can access as well. If you scroll down a bit, there are some additional information, and this section will have some latest features within Moodle that have been introduced that you can learn and understand if you, but it will depend on your course coordinator to decide if any of those services will be used for your course within the term. Now let's go ahead and log into Moodle. And I must also mention, if you, to be able to log into Moodle, you need to note that it will take at least 24 to 48 hours since your first enrollment into a course. So if you are not enrolled in any of the courses at UNSW, Moodle access won't be enabled. You need to be enrolled in at least one course, and it should have been at least 24 to 48 hours for the course enrollment to sync into Moodle. And with that, you would be able to log in and access the course. And as I mentioned before, if your login is not working, the best point of contact is our UNSW IT support team. Now to log, and also if you have forgotten your password, you can always click on Forgot Password, and that will take you to the IT support team where you can quickly reset your password or find contact details to talk to someone about setting up your password. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and click on Agree and Sign On to Moodle. And this is where you will use your credentials to sign on. And the credential format is as shown on the screen. It will be your ZID. So this is Z and 7-digit number at ad.unsw.edu.au. I'll repeat the ZID, that Z7-digit number at ad.unsw.edu.au. And this is usually what you use to log into any other UNSW systems. Now with that, you can go ahead and click Next. And here you will put in your password, and that's your password that you use to log into any other UNSW system. And please do not click on the Forgot My Password. If you do not know what your password is, or you feel the password is incorrect, you can contact UNSW IT support with the details provided. And you can also reset the password using the UNSW Identity Manager. And this is the same link that you get to when you click on Forgot Password. Now with that, we can go ahead and click on Sign In. And with that, you have logged into Moodle. And this is the main dashboard that you come into post your login. Now to talk about dashboard, and before I pass on, just want to mention that this login is the same that you use to access your Office 365 system or My UNSW and any other UNSW systems like OneDrive, which you can directly access as you have already logged in with the single sign-on system. So now let's go ahead and look at the dashboard and what features you have available as a student within the dashboard. So for that, I'll pass it on to my colleague Adrian to talk you over the dashboard section.
Perfect. Thanks, Anup. Thanks for that introduction. Hi, everyone. So I'm Adrian, a Senior Support Analyst in the ETS team. As Anup mentioned, following the login, you are presented with the Moodle dashboard. And for my part of today's session, I'll be going through the Moodle dashboard in a bit more detail, as well as some tips and tricks that you can do to customize your dashboard to your liking. So with that, I'll dive right into the demo. So as Anup mentioned, once we log in, we're presented with our Moodle dashboard. This is one of the most useful pages, and it shows every course that is currently available for you to have access to. Courses will not appear here until they are released to you by your lecturer. And it is worth noting that it's quite common for you not to see all the courses you are enrolled in until very close to the start of week 1, sometimes even after. You can see your courses as blocks, as shown here, with the course name. And you'll notice these completion bars as well. One thing I want to highlight about these completion bars is that these can mostly be ignored. These completion bars aren't an evaluated metric to assess your course completion. Most courses may in fact show 0%. It's always best to always refer to your course outline for key course and assessment task information. So just a reminder that this is not indicative of official course completion. These are related actually to activities in your Moodle course and certain features that instructors may or may not use. So again, official course completion and assessment tasks would ought to be referenced to your course outline and formal results post the end of every teaching period. Perfect. Moving on, I want to showcase the filters option. So on the top left here, we have this drop down. And here we have the ability to filter the courses which appear here in your dashboard. So let's select the drop down and see what options we have. So we have a few options here. By default, the filter is all except removed from view. There's a few other ones here. So for example, if we just select future, currently there's no courses. That's quite normal. We may not be enrolled in any future courses, and those future courses may not be visible to us yet anyway. We go past. We can see that this course has already been completed, but it's now filtered to just appear in here as so. Perfect. And there's also the in progress courses. We can see these two are now filtered to indicate that these two courses are currently in progress. Our recommendation with regards to filters is to always keep it, where possible, to the first option, which is by default all except removed from view. You'll see here that this will allow you to see all the courses that you're enrolled in, irrespective of completion. This being said, should your instructors choose to hide their courses after a teaching period, you will of course not have access to them anymore. So courses may disappear from your Moodle dashboard at the end of every teaching period. In the opposite case though, some courses may always remain in your Moodle dashboard. I remember when I was a student at UNSW, there were courses that I had access to throughout my whole degree pretty much because instructors just chose to leave it visible. But again, it's also quite common for them to hide them after the end of term. Perfect. If you are having trouble locating a course, it may always be because of a filter that you've set. So again, just reiterating to always keep it where possible. At least our recommendation is to use the all except removed from view function or filter. Perfect. Moving on the top right here, we have a few other options. So we have the sorting order and we have layout option. So the sorting order by default is last access. As the name implies, it will sort your courses dependent on the most recent that you've accessed. So if we've accessed this one recently, it will appear first. There are other sorting capabilities, for example, via course name, and which I believe does things in alphabetical order. I'll just leave mine as default to last access, but the option is there should you wish to customize that. The next option is the layout option, which is quite useful. By default, Moodle courses appear as these cards, as you can see here on the top right. They look like cards, as the name implies. Typically, you may or may not see a nice thumbnail. You'll see the what we refer to as a category, but you'll most likely see this as to be a faculty and the course title. But we can always change this if we're not a fan of the card layout. We can click on the layout option there. We can choose list. As the name implies, it puts everything into a list view. Or we can choose a summary view, which is a slightly more expanded version of the list view as well. Irrespective of the option you choose, there's as you progress throughout your program at UNSW, more and more courses will be in your dashboard. So you may want to see everything in one go. So you can do that by clicking on the show dropdown here on the bottom left and click on all. Perfect. I'll keep mine as card, but take into note you can always change this as well at any time. Perfect. Moving on, we can do further. There's some further managing options you can do as well. So you'll notice that every card or course has these 3 dots or ellipses, as we call them. And we can click on these to help us manage how we want to see it in our dashboard. For example, if we wanted to click on this, we have a few options. We can remove from view or star this course. I'm going to go ahead and click on star this course. This is a way to essentially favorite a course or to mark them as a favorite. And it allows us to then easily find these courses. So again, you may have many courses in your dashboard, but you're only interested in a few. So you may want to star them so they're easier to navigate to. And I'll showcase more of that shortly as well. And as I said as well, we can also remove courses from our dashboard by clicking on the 3 dots and remove from view. This isn't unenrolling ourselves from the course, this is just removing that course from our dashboard. So if we click on that, you'll notice that it's disappeared. If we wanted to find them again, we can click on this filter. We can actually filter by courses that have been removed from view. And you can see there's quite a lot of courses here that we've removed. And should you ever want to bring back a course into your dashboard view, you can click on the 3 dots and restore it to view. Perfect. Moving on, we can do some further customizations to the dashboard. And these customizations are only for your dashboard. So they're personal to your account, essentially. We can start by clicking on the Customize This Page button on the top right. And here we have an edit view, essentially. And before we continue, basically a Moodle dashboard is comprised of what's called blocks. And these blocks may be moved around and edited to your preference. The center area is the most prominent area for blocks. And you can also hide the left-hand column here by clicking on the top left button here as well. So especially if you're working on a smaller screen and you want to maximize what you're seeing, you can hide this left-hand blocks by clicking on this icon here, and it puts whatever's on the center of your screen into focus. Perfect. So whilst we're in this customized view, one feature we can do is we can actually pick and drag blocks to our center console. For example, we have our calendar block here on the left. If we wanted this to be in our center, we can click on this icon here and click and drag, and you'll see it lock into place there. Perfect. In addition to dragging blocks into the center, there's also additional blocks that we can add ourselves. To add a block, we can scroll all the way down on the bottom left and select Add a Block. One of the blocks that I'm going to talk about today is the Start Courses block, which I found useful when I was a student. We'll click on that. The page will reload. And if we scroll down to the left, we'll see the Start Courses block appear here. Currently, it's not very useful because it only displays one course here in this tiny block. But let's go ahead and drag this to the center console. And I'm going to position it here in the center. So what you'll notice is that the Start Courses block, as the name implies, is a block which only showcases courses that you've starred. Remembering that we have the ability to start courses by clicking on the ellipses here and starring a course, and they'll appear here. This is very useful, again, if over time you have a lot of courses and you're only really interested in a couple for that teaching period, you can star and unstar courses and they'll appear in this block accordingly. So if we were to unstar this one, for example, it will disappear from the Start Courses block. And if we were to star it again, it will reappear. Again, a very useful feature and one that I actually used a lot when I was a student. Perfect. So what I've shown you should be the default look of the dashboard. But if you find that you're missing something, you can always customize the dashboard to add other blocks to your liking as well. So we don't have time to go through all the blocks available, but I really wanted to highlight in today's session that the capability to customize your course page, remembering that all this is personal to your own account. Similarly, if we wanted to do the opposite, if we no longer want the calendar block here on the center, we can click and drag it back and move it here to the left. If we're no longer interested in the start courses block, for example, clicking on the cog icon and deleting the block will do just that. Of course, if you change your mind in the future, you can always re-add the block and position it to your liking as well. So these actions aren't permanent. They're just temporary to your liking. Once we're ready, we can click Stop Customizing this page, and the dashboard will save that in that current state. And every time you log into Moodle, it will keep that view however you set that up. Perfect. With that said, that was a brief overview of logging into Moodle, as well as the Moodle dashboard. Of course, there's more to it than the dashboard. There's the actual course navigation itself. And for that, I'll hand over to my colleague, Jackie, where he'll go through just that. So over to you, Jackie.
Perfect. Thanks, Adrian. So hi, everyone. So Adrian just went through the customization of the dashboard, and it might not be as relevant to you now when you only have 3 courses in your dashboard, but as you go through your degrees, it becomes increasingly important. For example, when you start getting like 20 courses in your dashboard, it is very good to keep it clean just so that you can find when your courses come out each term as well. So in my part, I'm going to go a bit beyond that now, and we're going to go into when your courses will appear for you, and also just how to go in and find your courses and what happens and appears in your courses. So I noticed we did get a lot of very good questions, so we'll go through that a bit after this part as well. So perfect, let me just go ahead and share my screen now. There we go. Perfect. So just a moment. There we go. So you'll see that currently on the screen is the same screen that Adrian went through, so the dashboard. And pretty much in this dashboard, the way we would find a course is similar to what Adrian went through, the filters. And the courses appear as these squares in the dashboard. So to enter into the course, as you'd expect, you can just click on any of these blocks, so any name of these courses, and you're going to pretty much go into the course page. Before I go into the course page, I do want to go over some things that will kind of scare you generally at the start of every term, and that is when your course will appear in this dashboard. So usually you'd expect that when you successfully enroll into a course, they'll pop up into your dashboard, and that's when you know that your enrollment's good and everything is good. But courses don't usually appear immediately for students. The courses generally appear in the dashboard close to week 1, and sometimes even during week 1, let's say after the first lecture, for example. And this is really just dependent on when your lecturer wants to make these resources available to you. So oftentimes you're going to see that when you go into your dashboard near the start of term 1, you might see that some courses just aren't here, or some courses are here and some aren't here. So don't worry about that. The courses are just going to become available closer midway through week 1, for example. So there are some other cases as well that I would like to mention. For example, if you do enroll into a course, for example, midway through the term or closer to the start of term 1, it might take 24 to 48 hours for your courses to show up here. So, for example, if you are switching courses midterm, you will notice that there's a slight delay before it goes into Moodle, and that's perfectly fine. So that doesn't show that the actual enrollment has an issue, for example. That being said, if you do notice that courses aren't showing up when it really should show up and when you really need it, we do recommend you contact either your instructor or your faculty just to double check what's going on with the course and why it's not showing up. So perfect. Just wanted to get that out of the way because it scared me in the past as well, and it does tend to scare people near the start of every term. It just happens. So perfect. Why don't we continue on and let's go through some of the course content. So why don't we click on one of these courses and enter into them? Why don't we go into Introduction to Renewable Energy over here? So let's click on this. And just by clicking on it, we're going to enter into the course page over here. So this course page is really where most of the content in the course goes. So the course page is kind of just a place for your instructor to put in supplementary materials, slides, any information that would be helpful for you. And also, of course, most importantly, your assessments may come here as well. So when you go into a course, the layout is actually rather simple. So you might expect the course to be very complicated and a lot happening, but generally speaking, the course layout is mainly similar to the dashboard. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see this blocks area that Adrian mentioned. So the blocks are kind of just navigation options to help you, and also sometimes some additional information. So for example, you will see the instructor details over here in many courses, where you can see a photo of your instructor and some of their contact information, for example. So as Adrian mentioned as well, we can, when we're navigating through these courses, click this button on the top left to kind of hide away the block section. So many times, especially if you're on a laptop, this block section is taking up a lot of the screen space when all you want to do is watch a video or read some text. And we can just click this on any page in our course, and it's going to hide it. So we can click it one more time to show it. Perfect. In addition to that, on the right-hand side of our course, we're going to see the majority of the content. So as I mentioned, course designs are not that complicated. Mainly on the right-hand side, what we see is just content going top down. So we may see a little banner up top, some forums, and if we keep scrolling down, we're just going to see content just laid out in these accordions over here. So we usually call these accordion sections or groups of content, and each accordion just has a different type of content grouped by your instructor. So for example, if I clicked welcome over here, once I click it, it just expands the accordion and we can see what's inside the accordion's content. And the same goes for any other type of content in our course. So if we scroll down, in assessments, for example, we'll see some assessments and so forth for week 1, week 2. Let's open week 1 up just to show it. Perfect. So that's the general design of courses. Of course, it does depend on your faculty and subject, what you're learning. And some of these courses might not look exactly like this, but the general idea is there, where left-hand side is mainly the navigation and some additional information. And on the right-hand side, we're going to see the content of our course, just laid out in different links across the page, like so. Perfect. So why don't we go into some of the main content that we will see in the courses? Of course, there's no way for me to show exactly how your courses look in terms of these content, but I'm going to go over some of the main things you're going to find in courses and just how they look like, so an introduction on them. So why don't we go into the top first, and let's start top down. So why don't we begin with these forums over here on the top? In your courses, you're usually going to find forums. Forums are probably one of the most common things you find in a course. And a forum is really just a place to talk with the instructor, tutors, or your peers, for example. So there are 2 main types of forums you are going to see. In some courses, you're going to see a forum that's named announcements, and that's generally the same between courses. And as the name implies, the announcements forum is where your instructor gives you announcements. So if we click on it, we'll see there's 200 posts here. If we click on it, it's just going to load up a page where we see some of the announcements for our course. Perfect. So we can see that we've got 2 announcements from our instructors. One is a welcome message and another one is the assessment 1 information. To use a forum, all we need to do is click on any of these. And it's just going to open up the post that these staff have made. Perfect. So just some things to mention about the announcements forum. It's not a place where we can post to. So even if we have a question regarding these assessment 1 details, we're not able to respond to it. This is really just a place to get announcements from the instructor, so information. And another thing is that usually what's going to happen is when the instructor does make these announcements, like for example, assessment 1 information, we will also get an email sent to our UNSW mailbox with this information. So the email may come immediately or near the end of the day, depending on how some of your email preferences are like. That being said, the general idea behind this is that we get announcements from here. We can get emails notifying us of it. And also these announcements are generally just the important things that are happening in our course. So perfect. Why don't we move out of this forum? So one of the things that are very helpful when navigating these courses is how do we get back to the main page of our course? So right now I'm in this announcements forum post, but what I really want to do is maybe go back to the course main page. So to do that, we can use things like this welcome to the course button over here, which moves us back to the forum page. Or we can click on what I like most is the breadcrumbs, we call it up top over here. So on any page in a course, you're going to see basically the pages that led up to it over here on the top. So for example, if I clicked on announcements, which happens to be the name of this forum, what happens is that the announcements forum loads up for us over here. And of course, this is very useful when we're going back in content. But what I wanted to mention especially is that we will see something like a shortened version of our course name up top as well. It's usually maybe the 3rd item in here. And if we click this name with our course name on it, or really if we click the course name in this navigation block as well, general idea being if we click our course name, it's going to take us to the course main page. So let's click on this here. So INTR1234, which is the code of our course. And once we click on it, as I mentioned, we get taken to the main page. So that's one of the easier ways to just go back to the course main page, wherever you are at. Perfect. Of course, we also have the browser's back button as well. But sometimes if we browse many posts in a forum, for example, the back button doesn't work as well as this. Perfect. So I did mention the announcements forum, but I also wanted to mention just the normal forums in your course. So earlier on, we saw the assessment 1 information. But what if we had a question regarding that information? We couldn't reply to the instructor's announcement. So what usually happens in courses is that we will have another forum, maybe under the announcements or in one of these sections, like in the welcome section, perhaps. But usually what happens is that we do have a forum that's named questions or questions and answer, or maybe discussion. And this is just a normal forum. So if we click on the link to any of these forums, oops, let me log in again. This does happen sometimes, but just a moment. Perfect. Let me refresh the page. We'll just press continue. So yes, that was just something with our account that we're using to demo this, but don't worry. Generally speaking, if you do see things like that when we refresh the page, it does fix itself. So we're back in our normal forum now in our course. And basically in a normal forum, we just make posts and we can talk freely. So unlike the announcements forum, which was built for a specific purpose, some forums such as question and answer or discussion, and the instructor will make it obvious to us when that happens, we can just go in and click this add a discussion topic button. So we can really do whatever we like in this forum. So we can make posts. So let's say I have a question. Maybe normally we would make a slightly better name than this, but about question 1. So let's say about assessment 1. And then we can just type in our content over here. So I can say things like, let's say I have a question, and I'm not going to type it all out for everyone to see. But you can just type in some content into the forum, and you can just click post to make a post. So perfect. Just wait for it to load. And once it loads, a post will be made into the forum for everyone to see. So it's pretty standard as a forum. You can make posts into it. Your peers can go into here and click on your discussions. And of course, you can click on other people's discussions. And we can just have a discussion. We can see what they want to say, and we can click the reply button, for example, to make replies to it. In addition, let me make a reply right now. So what we did was we clicked reply. We can type something up, and we can post to the forum too. Perfect. So why don't we go back to the course main page now that we're done with this forum? Go back to the main page. We can just click on the name of our course one more time. And we're back here now. So the forum is one of the most common, so I did spend a bit of extra time on it. It is very useful to use in your courses. What I want to show as well are some things that will show up in some courses, and maybe you won't see them in some others, but these are quite important nevertheless. So if we go, let's skip assessments for now since it's a bit important and we'll talk about it last. But let's go over to week 1, for example, in our course. And notice how we only have week 1 and 2. In some courses, they tend to give you these extra weeks as the weeks come by. So let's pretend we are in week 2 of our course. So if we go into let's say week 2 this time, how about? If we go into week 2, we're going to see some content in our course. So these are some very common things you'll find. So you'll find things such as folders over here. And the way a folder works is quite similar to how a folder works in your computer. So if you click on it, what happens is you're just going to get some content, maybe PowerPoints or PDF documents, and you can just click on them to download, or you can click on the download folder button to download everything. So really, if you see a folder in your course, it's usually a way to just send your files to see. Perfect. Why don't we go back into our course? See and download, of course. So in addition to folders, we're going to see things such as PDF documents and pages. So a PDF document is as you expect. It's just a link that opens up a PDF file. So if I click on it, it will open up this document that we can read. And the one thing to get about these PDF files is that sometimes they do open up in this unique PDF viewer over here. This viewer does let you download the file on the top right by clicking this download button. And also, to go back to your course, you do need to press this back button over here to go back. So you'll notice that there's no longer any blocks column here, no longer any buttons to go back to your course main page. But we can click this back button over here in our browser. It's just going to take us straight back to our main page. In addition to PDFs, we also have pages. So they look pretty similar to everything else, but the only difference is that if we click on them, they'll take you to a URL or open up another content page. So in this case, these are recommended reading, so they are URLs. So normally when you click on them, similar to in our example here, I use Google as an example, but of course you will see an actual document. We'll be taken to a URL that we can click on to open. So there are pages like that in your course as well. Perfect. So why don't we just go on to the last piece of content that you will see quite commonly in your courses, and these are the assessments. So some courses might not put their assessments in Moodle, but for the ones that do, and that's quite common as well, some of the main assessment tasks you get will look something like this. So I don't know if you've heard about them, but I'll give you some names because they will crop up every so often. But you get things like the assignment, or more popularly, you get things such as Turnitin, which allows you to do these sort of similarity checks on your documents to make sure you haven't copied content from other places. So it looks like this. And you might also get things like quizzes over here, which, as its name implies, is just an online quiz that you have to answer questions within. So why don't I show you just briefly how the submission works in some of these common ones, and we can just take a look at how the feedback will look as well. So all of these assessment type of tasks is honestly quite simple on the Moodle side. The hard part's of course doing the assessment itself. But on the Moodle end of things, all we really need to do is similar to everything else, just click on the link. And it's going to open up. We may also get this pop-up over here, which goes on about academic honesty and, for example, plagiarism. And we can just read it. We can click on it to get more information, and we can close it. Once we close it, we're going to be taken to the assessment screen. So I'm showing you one of the more common assessment types that come out in Moodle. And all it looks like is just really, you get the dates up top. You get a description of your assessment information. Sometimes the description's in a separate PDF right next to the link as well. And you really just get a button to make your submission. So it's really as simple as clicking on this button once we're ready. Pressing accept for the declaration. And of course, we want to read this declaration. And uploading the file. So why don't I open up one of my files over here, and let's upload a PDF document. Right here. So to upload the file, all we need to do is drag the file in, or we can even click this little search icon on the top left to search a file up in our browser. But the idea is that we just upload our file, press save changes, and we would have submitted to this assessment task. So it's really as simple as that when you are submitting. Once you are submitted, you'll see the submission status go to submitted. Just for this first one, I do want to mention something regarding resubmission. So resubmission is not very consistent in Moodle in the sense that it really depends on the assessment. So you need to carefully take a look at the assessment information to know if we can edit our submission after making it. So depending on the assessment task, sometimes we can only make one upload. And sometimes, like in the case of this one, we can still press this edit button to kind of put in more and more updated versions of our assessment. That's something that can catch you off, so be careful with regards to that. Perfect. Of course, if you do make a mistake in regards to that, and with many other questions as well, it is fine to contact your lecturer. Perfect. So with assignment out, why don't we just go over the other two options that we may see in our courses as well. So we do have the Turnitin option where you can see the link here. Perfect. And the Turnitin very much works the same as assignment. So you get the assessment information and you press the submit button to submit. So we are getting a lot of very good questions. I'll go through the majority of it at the end, but I did want to mention one question here regarding, which is very important with regards to this as well. So what type of file should normally be submitted? In terms of the file submissions for assessment tasks, I recommend looking carefully at the assessment information. So normally if it's a document, then they would want PDF or Word, but most of the time it's going to be specified specifically in the assessment information what file type to submit as. So in this case, why don't we click the submit button? And really with Turnitin, the submission is the same as assignment. So when we're doing these sorts of submissions, it's really just click on the link, upload the file, and give it a title. So in this case, I'll be renewable submission 1. Perfect. And we'll check the box and click submit. So the submission is quite straightforward. In Turnitin's end, you may get some additional information such as a similarity score or a receipt over here as well. Perfect. So why don't we go back to the main page now? Finally, I did want to quickly just show off this quiz as well. So why don't we click on this? Quizzes might not be as common as the other submission types depending on your faculty, but the general idea behind a quiz is just that you'll see the quiz information as usual over here, and you can click the attempt quiz button to start doing the quiz. So if I click on this now, it's going to open up a pop-up for me. We can start our attempt. And really, we just need to go in and answer the questions for a quiz. So there'll be a navigation options, a timer on the right, and we can just select answers and submit them like so. I'm not going to go too much over a quiz in this session, as it does really depend on your course, but it's pretty much as simple as opening up and answering and submitting. Perfect. So why don't we move back to the main page? I just wanted to show a bit of how the quiz would look if you went into it. Perfect. So really, those are the main things I wanted to show regarding course content. Between those, they're pretty much the majority of the things you're going to see in courses. And just wanted to mention that they aren't really that, they're quite straightforward to use as well. So just before we go to the Q&As, I did want to mention one final thing regarding these courses, and that is really, if we have a problem, where do we get help? So maybe our submissions are having issues, or we find a technical issue, where do we get help? And of course, for the most questions would go to the lecturer because they control directly the course. So questions about assessment tasks, issues you're having in the assessments would firstly go to the lecturer or your faculty. And generally, you'll see the contact information given to you in the course outline, the first lecture, or in the instructor details section here. In addition to that, if you needed other help, we do have this student help section on the top right of our pages. And over here, you just have access to pages where you can get support, educational technology support, and other details as well. So perfect. Why don't we go over into the Q&As now? So we did get a ton of very good questions.
Thank you so much, Anup, Malakadil, Adrian Godoy, and Jackie Sue for your insightful presentation and wise words. So I'm sure everyone online learned something new about the UNSW Moodle page in this session. So as you said, it is time for the Q&A. So this is a great opportunity for you to ask any questions you may have to our university experts before you commence term. So please type any questions you have into the Q&A chat box. Just a quick reminder to keep your eye on the chat box so you can like any questions that you'd like to be answered. You can upvote questions to have them answered more quickly. Any unanswered questions will be sent out as a frequently asked questions page next week. So I'll hand over. So our first question is, I successfully enrolled for 3 courses, but there are no courses on Moodle.
Perfect. So perfect. So I think I can answer that one. Yeah, so this is regarding what I mentioned earlier in the dashboard. So the courses actually only show up very close to the start of week 1 and sometimes even midway through week 1. So as long as you've confirmed the enrollment's gone through, don't worry, the courses will show up. And if they don't, you can contact your lecturer as well.
Amazing. our second question is, how do we set up Moodle on our phone?
Yeah, I can respond to that, Lillian. So with phone, there's a Moodle mobile app that's available, but that's a third-party application, and it's not supported at UNSW. So if you are accessing Moodle, you should only be accessing via the web browser on your mobile or tablet or any other portable device, as Moodle mobile app is not supported at UNSW, so you won't be able to access it.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, what should I do if Moodle doesn't work on my phone? Oh, it keeps saying my ID is invalid, though I could log in fine in my browser. And I think you've just answered that as well.
Yeah.
So where do emails go to? Can we see them on our phone? So I think this is more in reference to Outlook, maybe.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So yeah, Lillian's exactly right. So at UNSW, your emails will go through Outlook, Microsoft Outlook, and we're all, as students, given an Office 365 account. So UNSW IT are the people who you can reach out to for further support on how you can set up your emails on your phone. You can also set up your emails using an Outlook client or any other supported mail clients on your laptop. So yes, they go to your Outlook inbox or mailbox. But again, if you contact UNSW IT, they'll be able to assist you further on how to set that up on your devices.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, why does my Moodle say 100% even though I'm just about to start?
Yep, I can answer that too. So as mentioned at the start, the activity completion bar that you see in Moodle is not indicative of your actual completion, of course. It's related to a feature that instructors may or may not use in the back end when they're setting up their courses. Not to get into too much detail, but instructors have the ability to mark certain activities in Moodle as activity completed. Some of these are automatic, some of these are manual. Some of these are very basic. For example, even the act of opening a file may be marked as complete. So in most cases, if that's the only completion criteria that they've set up, the bar will jump to 100%. Again, you can more or less ignore that bar for an accurate understanding of your assessment structure and courses. Refer to your course outline, and then you'll obviously at the end of term receive, you'll sit a final assessment of sorts, and then grades will be collected and you'll get a formal grade via email, and they'll also pin my UNSW.
Just to add to that, just to add to that, if some of your activities are hidden within your course, that could also affect the completion percentage. So those hidden activities will not be calculated. So like Adrian mentioned, that's not a valid completion tracker. It's just for reference to the lecturers.
Great, thank you. So our next question is, what do online students do when an enrolled course isn't there? So I'll hand that over to you guys.
Perfect, I'll answer that one. So generally speaking, those courses should become available before the first lecture. If it still isn't available, I do recommend contacting the course lecturer or just your faculty, the faculty you're in. They have a faculty office contact as well.
Great. I think this is sort of linked as well. So as lectures are online, if a course has yet not appeared, what should we do to access Zoom/Teams links? And a continuation from that as well is, will all Teams links be available through Moodle, or do we need to be added to a team first?
Perfect. So it really depends on the course. Most courses will give you the Teams links in the Moodle, and many will also send you an email with information about that as well. So they should become available for you before the start of the first lecture. So there's no way to enter it if they don't make it available to you in that sense. So they should hand it to you.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, how do you change your email preferences on Moodle? I only get emails when there are announcements for one of my courses, but not the others.
Perfect. So for the announcements So the emails really only come when the instructor, let me go back to the course as well. When the instructor makes posts into this specific forum, and they should go into your email. For other forums, you do have a subscribe button, which you do use to subscribe to posts. So if you notice that there is this subscribe button in your announcements section, then just tick these to get emails for things made there. In addition, I do want to mention just one quick thing. So in your preferences on your account on the top right, you do have forum preferences over here. So if we go into our preferences and select forum preferences, we do have some control over when we want emails to come to us. So it's mainly this email digest type, and I do recommend just taking a look at this question mark here to see when you want to get emails. So perfect.
Excellent, thank you for that. So our next question that has come through is, will we be required to turn in assignments via Turnitin, or is it just to check for plagiarism before you submit?
So
I'll answer that, Jackie, if you want. Yeah, so this all depends on how your instructor has set up the Turnitin activity. So as Jackie mentioned in the demo, always pay attention to the assessment instructions, as your instructors will make clear what the assessment task, or they should make clear what the assessment task is related and how it will be used. There will be many cases where you'll be submitting to Turnitin as an actual submission, as well as simultaneously for the academics to check for plagiarism. Of course, there's also scenarios where instructors may want you to submit to Turnitin for a draft, just to get that initial plagiarism report, allow you to edit your assignment and then submit elsewhere. They may even have you submit to a different Turnitin activity. There's a lot of permutation and combinations here with how things are set up. So I strongly recommend to pay attention to the assessment instructions for that particular assessment task and reach out to your instructor if you're ever unsure.
Great, thank you. And I think we have time for just one more question. So where on Moodle will we be able to access the Elise quiz?
Perfect. I think I can answer this one. So the Elise quiz is another thing that scares people a bit as well, because it shows up much later than you'd think it does. So the Elise quiz will show up in Moodle like any one of these courses here, but it does appear later. So you do get the emails notifying you of the Elise quiz earlier than it does show up for your dashboard. So once it is available, you will see it here. That's just another card.
Great, thank you. I see we have a lot more questions that have come through, but as stated before, will be responded to in a frequently asked question document. So yeah, unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. Thanks to all those questions, and a massive thank you to Anoop, Adrian, and Jackie for their time today. Before I let you go, I wanted to let you know that we have several Prepping for Success events taking place today, with sessions on time management, budgeting, as well as studying online and remotely. If you're interested in attending any of these sessions, then please register for the event via the Prepping for Success website, which has just been posted in the chat box. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found this session helpful and wish you all the best for Term 1. If you have any questions following this event, please visit the Nucleus online chat or book an online session with the UNSW support advisors. These links will be posted in the chat. Thanks again and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.